Assume that a sample is used to estimate a population mean. Find the 90% confidence interval for a sample of size 23 with a mean of 15.1 and a standard deviation of 16.2. Enter your answer as an open interval, that is parentheses, accurate to 1 decimal place because the sample statistics are reported accurate to 1 decimal place. Answer should be obtained without any preliminary rounding. However, the critical value may be rounded to 3 decimal places. So our confidence interval is going to be our sample mean plus or minus our margin of error. And remember that the margin of error is the critical t-value times s over square root of n, our standard error. So let's go ahead and figure out what our margin of error is using the calculator. So our t star we obtain by second vars and choice number 4, which is the inverse t. And we want the area under the curve to the left of our critical value, which is 0.95 in our case for a 90% confidence level. And our degrees of freedom. Our sample size is 23, so our degrees of freedom are 22. And this will give us our critical value, the t star. And then we're going to multiply that by S, our sample standard deviation, which is 16.2. And we're dividing that by the square root of n. And remember, n was 23. And so for our margin of error, we're going to have an answer of 5.800399388. Okay, so that's our margin of error. Our x bar, our sample mean, in this case was 15.1. And so it's 15.1 plus or minus that margin of error. So when we come back to the calculator, we will put in those numbers and see what we come up with for our ends of our confidence interval. So we'll take 15.1 and we'll subtract the answer that we got for our margin of error. And we'll get 9.2996, which we're going to round to 9.3 because the question said to round to 1 decimal place. For the other end of our confidence interval, we'll take 15.1 and we'll add the margin of error. And put in one too many 8s, didn't I? There we go. And we'll get 20.9 for the other end of our confidence interval. So what we get for an answer is 9.3 to 20.9. That's a 90% confidence interval given the data. And the parentheses are what we call an open interval.